Morning, everyone. I must say I was having a huge panic attack out here earlier until these beautiful young people started playing music, and my daughter actually went to high school with one of them, which is super cool. Yeah, as Ben was saying, I was painting a sign, and I noticed somebody staring at me from behind, and typically when this happens, they usually say something like, "You spelled it wrong," or "That must take a real steady hand. I can't draw a straight line." But he was very quiet, and he just sat there, and finally he said, "Don't mean to disturb, but I'm just amazed that you can do that, and what is it that you do?" And I didn't even know people did this anymore. And that was very, very cool. So, like he said, I invited him to my studio, and we got to talking about Creative Mornings. I didn't know what that was, and he invited me to speak. And I had a list of words, and work just really stood out to me for many, many reasons, because work is so personal. I love what I do, and I consider it a gift, what I do. Thank you. Okay, there's me working. So when I got the word work, the first thing I did, being nervous about doing this even 4 months ago, I looked up the word work in the dictionary, and it says it's an activity involving mental or physical effort to achieve a result, labor, toil, slog, exertion, and drudgery. That's our commute in Austin. Hopefully it's not what we do as creatives, but I do see it as a gift. And my wife made these slides, and that's me, little me, put the little cowboy hat on there. You can see Norma Jeanne. But the obvious question, obviously, is what do you want to be when you grow up? That's always what we ask little kids when we're uncomfortable around them and we're trying to make conversation. What do you want to be when you grow up? And it's always this organic, wonderful answer. Firefighter, astronaut, doctor. And it's interesting to me how that changes throughout one's life. Being told you can't do something or that's unachievable, and how things change from what we dream into actually what we do for a living. I was an Army brat, and my goals in life were to be an artist, a truck driver, and I wanted to marry Glen Campbell. I achieved 2 of those things. Poor Glen. So we would travel around in a car, me and my 3 sisters and my parents, all over America, going from base to base. And the one thing I found about it was it's so different than driving around with your kids now, because I have children and they're very engaged in the back seat, and I'm just trying to listen to music and have my road trip. But as a child, I was just infatuated with signs and typography. Everywhere we went, I was just, look at that sign, look at that sign. It was an illness I had at a very young age. And my dad would always say, "Where do you want to stay, Norma Jeanne? What hotel do you want to stay in?" And I would pick somewhere because of the sign. So this comes to the reality of one's first job. My parents got a divorce when I was 14, and the stark reality was back in the 70s, we had to get jobs. So I lied when I was 15 and said I was 16, and back then they didn't check. And my first job was at Burger Queen. No one knows Burger Queen, home of the Royal Burger. I was asked to wear this outfit, but I refused. But this led to a series of jobs, which was work. And this is when things started becoming really real as a kid. Fast food jobs, which I would last at a very, very short amount of time. And I still get teased about that. I was actually working at Kroger, which is our HEB, and I had on a little vest. And I lasted 4 hours at that job because some really cute women came through the line, and they had some camping stuff. And I'm like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "We're going to the Women's Music Festival in Michigan." And I'm like, "Really?" And they're like, "Yeah, you want to come?" And I took off my vest, and I was gone. So I got a little bit older, and I had a boyfriend. Yes, I had a boyfriend. And his mother asked me to repaint a sign on a window. And I said, okay, and I didn't know what materials to use, so I went out to the art store, the hobby store, and I got a little jar of paint that you paint a model with, and a little nylon brush. And I'm out there in the hot Kentucky sun trying to repaint this sign, and I'm thinking, how in the hell do they get this so smooth and beautiful? And I thought, this is a horrible trade. Who would ever pick this? And then along comes this gentleman on a bicycle. And he said, are you a sign painter? And I said, hell no, and I don't know who would ever want to be. And he said, I'll be right back. He came back, he had the proper brush, one-shot paint, loaded the brush for me, and said, try this. And I put it on the glass, and my whole world opened up. It was like everything I ever felt about typography and lettering at that moment came alive. And I turned around to thank him, and he was gone. It was like, thanks, mister. You know, he was just gone. So one of the opportunities that I had was that I was on NPR, and they were interviewing me about the film and the book, and Calvert Guthrie was in Kansas City listening to NPR, where he works as a printmaker now, and he said, hey, I think that girl's talking about me. And his friends were like, you're shit-ass nuts. And he said, no, I was in Kentucky, and I remember I was on a bicycle, and there was this girl, and she was struggling. So one day I was leaving my shop here in Austin, and a truck pulled up, and this beautiful man got out, and he's just gorgeous. And he's walking toward me, and I was leaving for the night, and he said, are you leaving for the evening? And I said, not if you want to order a sign. And he said, oh, I've got something much better than that. And as I was looking at him, he was like an uncle or an old familiar friend. And I said, it's you. This was 35 years ago. And I knew those eyes. And he said, yeah, it's me. He drove all the way from Kansas City. And I got to thank him for changing my life. So then I decided that I wanted to go into sign painting, but being as it was 1982 and they just introduced the wonderful vinyl machine, which did my job quickly and cheaper than you could ever do it by a sign painter, I came into this when it's like rock and roll is dead. Like, don't be a sign painter, you can't be a sign painter. But being the stubborn kid I was, I got a job at a sign company, and they were inside painting stall cards for the horse farms, and they did all of this by hand, but it was a man's world. It wasn't a woman's world, and they put me in there weeding vinyl, and I thought, this is a nightmare. I'm never going to be able to be a sign painter. Why won't anyone help me? So the boss's sister came over, and she said, I can see you really want this. She gave me a key to the business and said, if you come in here in the morning and practice, we'll figure this out. So at 4 a.m., every morning, I would unlock the doors to Johnson Sign Company, sneak in there and practice, and do horrible, horrible letters, horrible signs, until I started getting it, which I had to do on my own. And she asked me one day, are you ready? And so she brought me in there, and she said, Norma Jeanne's going to paint some stall cards. And they were like, what? Really? And I just did it. And they let me do that for a while, and I was so grateful to this woman for stepping up and believing in me because she saw that I had the heart. Here we are in Austin. What happened was I was in Nashville, Tennessee. I had painted pretty much every sign I could paint, and I decided to be a truck driver. And I went over the road, and in Nashville, I was at the Lipstick Lounge, which is a lovely little lesbian bar there. And I was with my sister, and this woman approached me and said, you're going to dance with me now. And that was my lovely wife, Donna Fisher. And we danced to some unsa unsa music, which is not my deal at all, as you can see. And it changed my life. We talked over the road, we talked on the phone, and I eventually moved to Austin, where I became a driver for Cap Metro, and I also drove for Centec's concrete truck. She could see that I was miserable. I felt like there's still no need for sign painting, and she said, Norma Jeanne, I just got my bonus. I want you to start Red Ryder again. So I did. Starting a business, doing something that you think nobody needs or no one's interested in is really scary. Opening the doors to a shop, literally with no clients in a very unfamiliar city is very frightening. But my wife stuck by me. I think my mother-in-law now thought, what the hell is Donna doing with this woman? Thanks, Mary. And so what happened eventually is that I picked up a client here and there, just out of having a little bit of exposure and people being interested. And I was approached by Faith Levine after I sent her a letter. My sister found a New York Times article, and it said that someone was making a movie about sign painters. Well, I thought the movie was already in the can, but I had to find the director and write her a letter and say, hey, thank you for doing a documentary about sign painters. Like, who's even going to watch that but me? And she emailed me right back and said, we're not done yet. Where are you? I'm in Austin. She said, we're coming to see you. So she came to Austin. I did the interview. She called me about 7 months later and said, we're going to do a book to accompany the film, and you're going to be in it. I could almost cry. This is a life-changing experience. My whole life in sign painting, doing something that I love, is being put in a can for everyone to see. And I just can't believe how much it's changed my life. I don't know if it's a correlation between the film and people being interested in the craft again, or it's just me being interested in myself again that has made Red Ryder so successful today. So here we are in Austin. These are some of my clients. I have a waiting list now into February, which is, for a sign painter, very exciting, and also working 7 days a week is pretty much what my speed is right now. Another cool thing that I'm interested in talking about too is, since I'm in a room of creatives right now, is that I'm working with a lot of designers right now. And back in the day, as the sign painter, you were the designer. You would meet with the client, design the sign, and paint the sign. More and more often now, I'm having wonderful designers in Austin come to me with the design that's gorgeous, because we're in Austin, and I get to paint the sign. So this is also something new that's been happening in my field. I think one of the most important things that I'm doing right now is teaching. Since the film and the book, I have people approach me on a daily basis through email or phone calls wanting to apprentice at Red Ryder. And some of these have gone disastrously bad. There are some stories, and I only have 20 minutes, but when I say disaster, I mean disaster, on an emotional and also a business level. I have two young ladies in the audience today, Willow and Kayla, that are apprenticing with me, and I'd like everyone to clap for them, because this is a big deal. The fact that I'm able to give back and to teach young people this trade that I love so much is so important to me, and it's exciting to see somebody grow as an artist. And so let's all support each other as creatives. If someone comes into your path, wants to learn something, let's share this gift that we have. It's so interesting to be in this space and look at these cranes, and we can see the growth in Austin, and let's just keep it real and be authentic to ourselves. I think if you're authentic to yourself and what you do, if you do what you want to be when you grow up, you're going to be happy. Which brings me to Project Loop, which is a gentleman, Brent Humphreys, is involved with these young kids in Taylor trying to build a skateboard park. And one of the ways I like to give back is to donate art to auctions for different charities around Austin. This is something that's very close to my heart. If you don't know about Project Loop or the 50/50 show that's going on right now, you can purchase a deck. The money all goes to try to help these kids build a skateboard park. And I think that's also important as creatives, to take your time and really give back this gift that we have and share it with our community. We say no a lot because we're busy and we just want to relax, but let's try to give back. Thanks for letting me talk today, and that's it.